I bought this set a while ago now. I think it's time to finally use it on the channel. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artist at Play, and today we are going to be playing around with some of the Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus Watercolors. I've had these for a little while now, and I've been wanting to try them, and I couldn't figure out quite what I wanted to do with them, but I've been feeling really festive lately, obviously. And a vision came to my mind, and I decided these would be super fun to make a Christmas card with. So that's what we're going to do today. I will be swatching them out, and I will be making a fun little festive Christmas card with them and just having a good time. And I think, honestly, I think that's fitting because this kind of looks like a wreath. So let's just get down to it. Okay, let's take a look at this set. I have here set number 3 of the 1 ounce bottles. There's 12 bottles here. And the colors are Crimson Lake, Quinacridone Violet, Red Oxide, Raw Sienna, Raw Umber, Turquoise Blue, Blue Aqua, Ultramarine Red Violet, Hansa Yellow Medium, Chrome Yellow, Vermilion Hue, and Carmine. I also bought a couple of colors open stock, and those colors are Sap Green and Payne's Gray. Now, most of these bottles have the light fast ratings and pigment information on them, other than my Payne's Gray for some reason. But here you can see it has the pigments and the light fastness. As far as this set goes, the light fast ratings are great. They're all between a 1 and a 2 on the ASTM scale. Now to swatch them out, one thing to remember when working with these is A, you do want to add some water, and B, make sure you shake them really well. That was my issue with the red oxide. I shook the heck out of it, but it wasn't fully mixed when I went to swatch it at first, and then I shook it too much, and now there's bubbles. So just be aware of that. Let the bubbles settle before you use it. But as you can see, the colors are really beautiful. They're robust and vibrant, and a little goes a very long way. I'm only putting a drop down, and I'm coming in with a wet brush to spread it out. And as I mentioned, you do want to use some water. You don't need a ton to get it moving, but you do want to use some because you'll see when these dry, if there's not enough water added, they get a little bit thick and a little bit kind of like shiny and sticky in areas where they weren't watered down enough. So you can kind of see that here, again, in that red oxide where those bubbles came to stay, the raw sienna, you can kind of see these little shiny spots. Those are technically dry, but they're a little bit sticky, so that's why you want to try to add some water. But again, a little goes a long way with these. You don't need a ton of water. Even when you do add a lot of water, it still stays really vibrant. I'm just using some generic cold pressed greeting cards to paint on. I bought these off of Amazon. I usually use the Strathmore ones, but these were fairly inexpensive, and I do like the way they work. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is wet my background because I want to come in and make some fun effects to make it look like blurred out Christmas lights in the background. And I'm doing that with my brush, but I also will come in with the dropper itself, and that works really well also. And I'm just letting the colors kind of spur together, mix, and, do their thing. And you can see they stay super vibrant, even in a wet on wet setting. And I love the way they spur out. This is exactly the kind of background I was picturing. So vibrant. And I have to say, a lot of these are highly staining as well. I had an interesting time cleaning up my desk after. So again, like I mentioned, a little goes a very long way. If you want something super vibrant, definitely go for these. They almost feel like they would be dye-based, but they're not. They're pigment-based according to the bottles. And one of the things that I like about these is this is one of their only inks that actually gives you the light fast information. Though I'm not sure why there was no light fast information for the Payne's Gray, as I said, but Payne's Gray a lot of times is, depending on what pigments they use, it can be fairly light fast. So hopefully they used some good pigments in that because I love me a good Payne's Gray. I also could not find an actual color chart online, like an official color chart to show all the colors. I'll keep looking, and if I find something, I will link it in the description. But I had a really hard time with that. But as far as this set goes, I'm pretty happy with it. They have a couple other sets as well, and they sell some sets with smaller bottles if you don't want to go crazy and get the big ones like I did and you want to save a little bit of money. And they are available open stock as well from various places, as I mentioned, hence the fact that I was able to get my sap green and Payne's gray open stock. Now, those are really convenience colors. These actually mixed really well. Also, I have a palette off to the side, and I am mixing colors as I need. Because these are so vibrant, there are times when you are going to want to mix them so that you can kind of dull things down a little bit and scale it back. You don't need to have every single thing in your piece be high chroma. So in those instances, you do want to mix your colors. But they are definitely highly pigmented, and they feel very like pure pigment-wise, even though some of them have multiple pigments in it. So you get pretty clean mixes, I found, at least with the colors that I was using for this. I didn't use a ton of my earth tones, though I do bring some in for the boughs of the tree. You'll see that a little bit later, but it's very, very slight. Again, just to tone things down a little bit. And I did find the earth tones tend to feel a little bit more on the opaque side, especially the raw sienna. You can tell just by the way it builds up on the paper that they were a little bit opaque. The raw umber, I think, was still fairly transparent, and most of these were really transparent and beautiful. Now I'm coming in for the actual Christmas bulb, and I am not worried about the fact that some of my green has leached into that from the branches around it, because this is going to be reflective, so you're going to see some of the branches anyway. And again, I started out kind of wet into wet in this part. I let the areas around it dry, though the branch underneath was still a little bit wet. We have some things moving, but that's fine. I'm not going for perfection here. I don't even have a reference. This was out of my head. I had a vision in mind and I just went with it. And I'm actually pretty happy with the way it came out. And I'm building up my shadows slowly, just dropping in colors. These spur out a lot. I don't know what they have for a color dispersant in them, but they definitely are a fun, watery, wishy-washy kind of watercolor, if that's what you're into. But you can get tighter detail as well, as long as you're kind of letting your paper dry in between. You want to use less water and a little bit more of the ink when you're trying to get the fine detail. But again, not too much. You don't want to go in with the pure watercolor ink. They're meant to be watered down. If you go in with too little water, you're going to get that buildup on the paper. So I'm just going in and building up with thinner layers, and I'm lifting in areas that I need to. Again, a lot of these colors are highly staining, so I'm not able to lift completely to the white of the paper with some of these colors. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to come in later with a white gel pen to give some juicy highlights a little bit later on. But you see me going back and forth a lot on this Christmas bulb. Again, part of that is that I don't have a reference, and I'm trying to go with the vision in my head. And part of that is just that I'm having so much fun playing with them and watching the colors kind of blur together. And I'll come in with my tool every once in a while to kind of fix that circle because, you know, I lose the shape a little bit here and there, but there's ways to clean it up. And I'm giving it some of the colors that are surrounding it. So I put a little bit of the blue in the reflection. I put a little bit of the yellow. I do bring in some green, but it acts a little bit more of a shadow color for this bulb because it is opposite on the color wheel. So you're going to see a little bit of that as well. It works really well to darken up the areas that I want to darken. And I'm just keeping the sphere shape in mind when I'm working on the shadows and the highlights because I want it to feel round. I want it to feel 3D. I'm coming in and darkening up my branches. This is where I brought in a little bit of the red oxide. Now I'm bringing in a fun marker because I wanted to put some pizzazz in here. And so this is just a gold marker. I'll link that in the description below as well. It's a little too much. It's a little bit thicker than I would have liked, but I fixed that in a little bit too. I bring in my Molotow acrylic marker to try and thin things out a little bit. And while that's still a little bit wet, I wash it away. It kind of acts as a shadow. Again, I'm not going for perfection here. This is a greeting card. This is not a masterpiece. This was just a great way for me to have some festive fun and get to know these paints a little bit better before I try to jump into something that's like a realism project. Because these are such a kind of watery supply to begin with, I wanted to really get a feel for the techniques before I tried to do anything too highly detailed. Now I'm just bringing in my little generic white gel pen and cleaning up my edges with it and putting in some highlights. Now, I'm not jumping right to completely white highlights. You're going to see me blur out a lot of them because I'm just trying to lighten up certain areas other than the spot that I know is going to be completely highlighted. And so this is the part where I'm going back and forth and I'm cleaning up my edges. I'm lifting where I'm able to with a studio rag. And then again, coming in with my tool. She's not going to be perfect, but I got to tell you, I'm pretty happy with the way this came out, considering I had no idea what I was doing with these paints. And I had no reference. I'm just, you know, on a, like, what is the saying? I'm living on a prayer. There it is. Living on a prayer, baby. Which I guess is the perfect time of year for. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really loved the background. That is exactly how I was envisioning it. Actually, that background is what made me want to do this piece using these paints, because I'm like, oh, I bet I could make some really pretty spurred out kind of bokeh Christmas lights with those inks. And I knew that they would be perfect for that. And it kind of makes me think of some of the old-timey cartoons I grew up on, like the Mickey Mouse ones and the, what is another one? Like maybe the old-timey Grinch cartoon. And just the colors and stuff and the vibrancy, it takes me back to my childhood and fun Christmas movies from when I was a kid. And adding in some more shadow areas. I have to tell you, my favorite colors, obviously I love my sap green because I'm a landscape girl. But I was really, really loving the quinacridone violet. That was perfect for the shadows. The Crimson Lake was pretty good too. All in all, I'm really, really happy with these paints and I can't wait to use them more, and I will definitely use them more in the future. Have you tried these paints? If so, let me know what you think of them and how you like to use them in the comments below. All right, friends, I had so much fun with this. These were so pigmented and vibrant and fun, and a little really goes a long way. So I can't wait to use them in the future. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hype it if you're able, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. You have a fantastic day. Bye.